There's a burden many children unknowingly inherit. The unlived dreams, the unexplored desires, the unspoken regrets of their parents. But this burden isn't just theirs. Modern men, we carry the ghosts of generations who never dared to question their illusions about women. Men who swallowed silence instead of truth, who stared into the feminine mystery and blinked. Carl Jung saw this with terrifying clarity. You think you see women clearly? You don't. You see what your soul demands, not who she is, but who your emptiness needs her to be. And what you call love, it's often a mirror, not a connection, a projection. This isn't about hating women. It's not about blaming them either. It's about waking up to the invisible hands shaping your longings. The unconscious force is pulling your strings in every romance, every heartbreak, every desperate longing to be completed by a woman. Because unless you bring light to that darkness, you will remain bound, not by her, but by your own illusions. Jung believed every man carries within him a hidden presence, the anima, his inner feminine. She is not soft. She is not weak. She is intuition. She is feeling. She is the key to the soul. But here's the danger. If a man never turns inward, never makes her conscious, she starts to live on her own. She becomes a ghost in the machine, haunting every woman you meet. You don't see her. You see the anima dressed in someone else's skin. You meet a woman, and in a matter of minutes, something in you whispers, she's the one. She feels like home, like destiny. But Jung would call that what it truly is, possession. You're not falling for her. You're falling into yourself, into the wound you never looked at. The anima whispers, she'll rescue you. She'll finally see you. She's unlike the rest. But it's not about her. It's you, chasing wholeness through someone else's face. She isn't evil, but she's powerful. She holds the door to your soul. And if you ignore her, she'll drag you through storm after storm, just to make you see her. Those obsessions that spin into madness, that pedestal you place her on, that heartbreak that made no sense at all fingerprints of the anima. And Jung's warning? Ignore her, and she becomes autonomous. A seductress that lives in your mind. A fantasy that hijacks your heart. A voice that tells you to give everything to a woman who never asked for it. You think it's passion, but it's not. It's fragmentation. It's the ache of a soul looking for itself in all the wrong places. Integration, real, lasting transformation, doesn't begin by running from the anima. It starts when you finally see her, when you stop chasing women, and start listening to the voice you buried inside yourself. The moment you begin a dialogue with that inner feminine, everything changes. Your energy shifts. Your neediness dissolves. You no longer hunt for salvation in someone else's embrace. Instead, you take the terrifying but necessary descent into your own soul. Only then can you love by choice, not by addiction. Only then do you stop needing love and start offering it from a place of power. Want to control a man? You don't need chains. Let him fall in love with his own fantasy, then stand in front of it. He'll hand you his soul with a smile. This is the epidemic. Modern men are starving, spiritually, emotionally, existentially, raised in broken homes, by absent fathers, distracted mothers, or both. They were never shown how to embody strength with softness, only how to perform, how to please, how to win validation, especially from women. So what happens when he finally meets a woman who sparkles with mystery? He doesn't see risk. He sees redemption. But behind that shimmer often lies a mirror, a very dangerous mirror. She gives him just enough warmth to hook him, then pulls away. She praises him when he pleases her, but punishes him when he speaks truth. Her affection becomes a currency, and he learns to trade authenticity for approval. When she's gone, he crumbles. When she's silent, he spirals, and he calls this chaos love. But it's not love. It's a psychic trap. And the cruel irony? She doesn't have to manipulate him. He does it to himself. He volunteers his backbone for a smile. He silences his truth just to be held. He erases his essence for a moment of attention. He believes that the more he sacrifices, the more she'll care. But the more he gives himself away, the less she respects what's left. Jung didn't say this was evil. He said it was inevitable when a man hasn't individuated, when he hasn't made peace with his own soul. He chases fragments of it in every woman he meets, and he mistakes depth for destiny. He mistakes drama for desire. But the woman isn't the problem. It's what she symbolizes. She becomes a portal to meaning, to magic, to the divine. And because of that, she becomes too powerful. Once she realizes this, she doesn't even have to try. Her silence shatters him. Her praise intoxicates him. Her absence defines his entire sense of self. He's not in love. He's in servitude to the parts of himself he never claimed. Jung never romanticized women. He didn't idolize them. He saw them clearly as carriers of immense psychic power, and he warned men who refuse to do the same, because the unconscious feminine has two faces. One is the muse. She inspires. She nurtures. She gives life. But the other? She consumes. She devours. She is chaos wrapped in beauty, a siren in disguise. And if a man hasn't made peace with his inner feminine, with the anima, he won't recognize which face he's kissing. He will fall not in love, but into hypnosis, and he'll follow her right into emotional ruin. But this isn't just a male tragedy. Women, too, are shaped by the unconscious, but in a different way. Just as a man must integrate his anima, a woman must integrate her animus, her inner masculine. When she doesn't, he becomes distorted, twisted, tyrannical. The unintegrated animus speaks not with wisdom, but with judgment. He makes her cold, overly critical, controlling, a queen without empathy, a ruler without grace. She clings to control, but blames others when things fall apart. She dominates, yet feels perpetually victimized. She craves strength, yet punishes it when she sees it. Now imagine this, a man ruled by his disowned anima, and a woman led by her wounded animus. They meet, and it feels electric, instant, inevitable. But it isn't love, it's trauma. It's archetype meeting archetype. Old wounds recognizing each other under new faces. He sees her fire and calls it power. She sees his softness and calls it safety. But beneath the surface, they're acting out ancient scripts. Two fragmented souls, grasping at each other, hoping the other will make them whole. But no one can give you what you refuse to give yourself. And when both are unconscious of their own inner forces, what begins as magnetism always ends in destruction. She will keep breaking the men who try to fix her, and he will keep chasing the women who consume the parts of him he never learned to protect. This isn't a love story. It's a loop, a karmic replay, a sacred opportunity disguised as suffering, and it only breaks when one of them finally decides to stop looking outward and start facing the storm within. Jung once said, what we fall in love with is often the part of ourselves we've never dared to meet. That woman you can't stop thinking about, she isn't magic. She's a mirror, a living symbol of everything you've left unlived. Her mystery speaks to your lost direction. Her boldness mirrors your buried fire. Her beauty, it isn't just physical. It echoes your forgotten hunger for wholeness. You don't love her. You love the man you become in her presence. You love how she connects you to a version of yourself you haven't owned. And when she's gone, it doesn't just hurt. It feels like death, because you weren't just losing her. You were losing the last place your soul saw itself. This is why modern relationships keep collapsing. They're not built on presence. They're built on projection. Everyone is walking around, hoping to be seen, but not truly, not for who they are. No, They want to be reflected. They want someone to hold their fantasy and call it love. That's why it never lasts. Because no real person can survive being turned into a symbol, a goddess, a savior, a healer. And when she breaks character, when her real humanity shows, the illusion dies. And so do you? Because your love wasn't rooted in connection. It was rooted in compensation. You were trying to make up for all the unlived pieces of your own soul by assigning them to her. That's why you fell so hard. Not because she was divine, but because you didn't recognize divinity in yourself. Jung warned us, projection isn't a choice. It happens in the dark, silently, automatically, and when it hits, it feels spiritual. It feels faded, like you're meeting a soulmate, but you're really just meeting yourself in disguise. If you want real love, you must kill the projection. Reclaim your lost pieces. Face the ache. Touch the part of you that's been waiting for years to be chosen by you. Until you do, every relationship will crack under the weight of your unmet self. You'll keep meeting different faces, wearing the same emotional costume, and you'll call it bad luck. But it's not. It's the psyche repeating what it doesn't repair. You ever wonder why she felt familiar, even when you just met her? Why her indifference hurt more than any breakup, and her attention lit you up like a drug? That wasn't chemistry. That was memory. Deep memory. Not from this life, but from the silent archives of your unconscious. You weren't drawn to her because of who she was. You were drawn because of what she activated. Her hot and cold behavior, her unpredictability, her ability to make you question your worth with a glance. This wasn't new. This was a loop, a psychic loop, a familiar pain you'd learned to call love. She pulled away, you chased. She criticized, you softened. She withdrew, you gave more. You weren't in a relationship. You were reenacting trauma. The absent mother, the shaming teacher, the first love who ghosted you. The moment you let your guard down, your body didn't forget, even if your mind couldn't name it. So now, calm feels boring. Kindness feels suspicious. And stability? It terrifies you because your nervous system was trained to associate chaos with connection. And so you keep returning to the same pattern, wearing different lipstick. Until you confront this, nothing will change. Not the dating apps, not the clever texting strategies, not the relationship rules. Because what you're caught in isn't romantic bad luck. It's a failed initiation. You were meant to pass through this fire and come out forged. Instead, you keep circling it, hoping this time it'll warm you, not burn you. But here's the truth. The feminine you crave, the one who excites and destroys you, is often just your unhealed pain, wrapped in skin. And no matter how many times you swear, she's different, deep inside, your soul already knows the ending. Why? Because it's not just a coincidence. It's not just a string of toxic relationships. It's the same pattern, repeating itself, until you finally ask, why do I keep chasing the fire that scorches me? What part of me still thinks this is love? What am I trying to fix through her? And when you stop asking, why does this keep happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to awaken in me? That's when the illusion shatters. That's when the woman stops being your mirror and becomes your teacher. A man ruled by his anima isn't weak, but he is lost. He reacts instead of leads. He chases instead of chooses. He confuses chaos for chemistry, an obsession for love. He isn't anchored. He's adrift, searching for something he can only find inside, but looking for it in every woman he meets. This is not romance. This is possession, not by a lover, but by an unclaimed self. He adapts himself to be liked, shrinks himself to be accepted. He calls it connection, but it's submission in disguise. He lets beauty manipulate him. He trades authenticity for attention. He doesn't even realize that the more he sacrifices to keep her interested, the less she sees him as a man. Jung saw this not as a moral failure, but a spiritual one. When a man hasn't been initiated into wholeness, he seeks it in the eyes of a woman, and once she becomes the source of meaning, she gains too much power. She doesn't have to abuse it. Her silence alone can torture him. Her withdrawal can erase him. Her validation can drug him. This isn't devotion. It's dependency. It's servitude to the parts of him he was too afraid to face. You see, most men today, they've been taught how to please, but not how to lead. They've been taught how to entertain women, but not how to embody masculinity. So when they finally meet a woman who triggers something deep, they confuse it with destiny. But it's not destiny. It's desperation. She doesn't complete him. She reflects what he hasn't claimed. And that's the truth that shatters everything. She becomes powerful not because she is, but because of what she represents. She becomes a symbol of salvation, and no symbol should carry that weight. When a man gives away the responsibility for his soul, he turns women into gods. And gods always demand sacrifice. But there's another path, a harder one that doesn't begin with fixing her, or chasing the next romance, or learning new techniques. It starts with stillness, with turning inward, with reclaiming every part of you thought only she could awaken. To become whole, a man must stop outsourcing his soul. He must stop looking at women as gateways to his salvation and start seeing them as mirrors of the work he's yet to do. Because until you integrate your anima, you will keep handing your worth to women and begging them to define it. You'll keep mistaking emotional chaos for passion. You'll keep calling manipulation mystery. You'll keep getting pulled into the same story with different characters and wondering why the ending never changes. Here's the truth most men avoid. You don't need her. You need you. You don't crave her body. You crave the part of yourself that only comes alive in her presence. You don't love her. You love how you feel when she reflects the pieces you're too afraid to own. But no one can sustain that illusion forever. Eventually, she fails to play the role. She says no. She pulls away. She becomes human. And because your identity was built on a fantasy, you collapse. But hear this. That collapse is not the end. It's the beginning. It's your soul pulling the brakes. On a lifetime of unconscious repetition, it's your psyche saying, enough. Because real initiation doesn't happen through romance. It happens through ruin, through loss, through the shattering of illusions you were never meant to live under. When you stop chasing her, you begin meeting yourself. Not the mask, not the pleaser, not the performer, but the man beneath the projections, the one who can stand in the fire of his own desire and not flinch. This man doesn't beg to be seen. He sees himself. He doesn't collapse when she leaves. He stays rooted. He doesn't romanticize chaos. He brings order into it. He doesn't confuse feminine energy with feminine approval, because now he knows who he is. And once a man knows who he is, he becomes dangerous, not to women, but to the illusions that once controlled him. Most women aren't looking for a man. They're looking for an emotional drug, someone to numb the ache of their own disconnection from their inner feminine. They say they want love, but what they really want is relief, validation, attention, a hit of emotional intensity to distract from the silence inside. And most men, especially those ruled by the anima, line up to provide it. He performs. He pleases. He adapts, not realizing he's not being loved. He's being consumed. You think she used you? She didn't have to. You offered yourself because you were addicted to the feeling of being needed. But she wasn't responding to your masculinity. She was feeding on your lack of it, because when a man has not forged his identity from the inside out, He becomes easily shaped by the feminine chaos around him. And no woman can respect a man who cannot hold his ground. She may sleep with him. She may talk about potential, but she will not trust him because he is ruled not by presence, but by projection. This kind of man doesn't choose love. He's consumed by it. He doesn't stand in relationship. He orbits her, waiting to be chosen. And the more he orbits, the more invisible he becomes. But a different kind of man exists, the integrated man, the sovereign one. He does not react. He observes. He does not chase. He commands through presence, not pressure. To women still ruled by their own wounded animus, this man will feel cold, intimidating, even cruel, but only because he refuses to play the roles. They projected onto others their whole lives. He won't become the father they never had. He won't volunteer to be their emotional punching bag. He won't beg to be loved, because he knows the crown a man wears must be forged from within, not handed to him by a woman looking to be saved. This kind of man, the one who has done the inner work, he doesn't need women. He chooses them. And that choice changes everything, because women feel the difference. They sense when a man can't be seduced by performance, when beauty doesn't blind him, when silence doesn't shake him, when manipulation doesn't move him. This kind of man doesn't orbit feminine chaos. He stands at the center of his own being, and from that center, he creates gravity. He doesn't try to impress. He awakens. He doesn't seek validation. He gives vision. To the unconscious woman, he is unnerving, because he doesn't flinch when she tests him. He doesn't collapse when she withdraws. He doesn't mistake her affection for a purpose. She might try to dominate him, but he cannot be ruled. She might try to provoke him, but he will not play, because he no longer projects his soul onto her. He carries it within himself, and that makes him unbreakable, not because he lacks emotion, but because his emotions no longer own him. He no longer mistakes her attention for destiny. He no longer sees her mood swings as spiritual signs. He sees clearly. He chooses cleanly. And when he loves, he does so with eyes wide open. This man becomes dangerous, not because he harms, but because he can walk away, because his soul is not for sale, because his love is not a product of his wounds. This is what Jung called integration. The anima no longer hijacks his vision. She no longer lives in the women he worships. She lives inside him now, fully known, fully claimed, and because of that, his presence becomes more powerful than any line, tactic, or game. He doesn't seek love to feel alive. He brings life into love. Jung never told men to reject women. He never preached attachment or bitterness. His message was far more radical. Withdraw the projection. See clearly. Stop mistaking reflections for reality. Because what you see in her, you must also learn to see in yourself. You admire her beauty? Create beauty in your life. You crave her mystery? Explore the mystery within your own soul. You yearn for her emotional depth? Dig deep into your own heart until you can sit in your pain without flinching. This is individuation, the path of becoming whole. And when you become whole, truly whole, you no longer meet women through the lens of need. You meet them with presence. She's not your savior, not your mother, not your muse, not your mission. She's a person, a soul, not a symbol. And that changes everything. Because when love is no longer about fixing, no longer about filling a hole in your chest, no longer about finding someone to complete the parts you've abandoned, then love finally becomes real. But the road to that love is not soft. It is brutal. It means sitting alone, not out of loneliness, but out of commitment to your own becoming. It means facing your grief, not numbing it, feeling the ache of longing without using someone else to silence it. It means learning to soothe your own heart, to trust your own gaze, to validate your own value. This is the difference between the unconscious man and the integrated one. The unconscious man needs her to feel whole. The integrated man knows she was never the answer, only the reflection. You see, Jung didn't say, chase the feminine. He said, bring her home, not through lovers or fantasies or endless longing, but by reclaiming the parts of you spent years trying to outsource. That's when the game ends. That's when the grief begins. That's when the boy finally dies, so the man can rise. This is Jung's dark truth about women. They are not here to complete you. They are here to confront you, to reflect what you haven't faced, to shine light on the parts of yourself you refuse to claim. You do not become a man by conquering women. You become a man by integrating the feminine within. Only then do you stop chasing. Only then do you see clearly. Only then can you love without losing yourself. So if you're tired of the heartbreak, the emotional chaos, the endless confusion, stop looking outward. Look inward, because the woman you're really searching for is buried inside the man you're still afraid to become. She was never the destination. She was a signpost. She was the mirror. And once you realize that, the illusion breaks, the pain rises, the work begins, and the boy in you, the one who begged to be loved, to be chosen, to be saved, he finally dies. And from that funeral, a man is born, not the man women fantasize about, not the one culture rewards, but the one who moves through the world with quiet power, because he no longer needs someone else's eyes to feel whole. This is what it means to be free, not to dominate women, not to avoid them, but to see them clearly and stand beside them as an equal. The work is not about controlling her. The work is about claiming you, because until you face your unconscious, you will always be ruled by it, and you'll call it love. You'll call it fate. You'll call it passion. But it was never her. It was always you, your unmet fire, your unlived story, your abandoned self. And no woman, no matter how beautiful, wise, or wild, can carry the weight of your unloved soul. So stop blaming her. Stop chasing shadows. Stop begging for permission to be whole. Do the one thing no dating coach can teach. Face the fire. Do your shadow work. Reclaim every piece of you tried to outsource to her, because in the end, she was never the answer. She was a reflection, the invitation, the test, and now it's your turn to answer.